Hello and good morning to the wonderful family. My name is Calmie and this is the Black Hot Fire Network, media for the 21st century. And of course, once more, much peace and love to the family and welcome to the Calmie African Diary Show. Remember, today we get to talk about a little bit of history because definitely it is great, to take a look at where you're coming from. And also, it is great to take a look at important facts that are not, of course, given in our books. Because let me take you one on one. Most of these authors, they are, of course, of European origin. So definitely, what they'll publish in their books, of course, some messages or some information to summarize on that is that it will be hidden from the public, of course, domain. But then again, it is good. That is why we do have the Black Hot Fire Network media for the 21st century, and it is here, of course, to educate you on, of course, some of these important facts that have been hidden, of course, in the public domain, and this has to do with, of course, African information. And of course, the topic today is about, I'll take you all, that is one on one, to the land of Benin, and we'll take a look at, of course, some of these amazing warriors. But then again, before that, we do also have other, of course, training topics that we have got lined up for you. Remember, this is the Calmie African Diary Show, and you can join me here on the live stream at Black Hot Fire Network. Definitely, I'll keep on saying that we do have a time difference, but I definitely get to appreciate that you'll take a time and join me here on the live chat. But before that, when I started the show, I shared with you a very amazing, of course, image. Let me just get to share with you once more, and of course, elaborate on the reason as to why I get to share with the family that amazing photo. All right, sorry about that. Our internet is currently buffering. I don't get to understand as to why it has hung. All right. Let me just take a look as to why this is happening. We are having a little bit of course, the internet buffering. All right, welcome back. Sorry about that slight technical hitch that you did have for you. I was just sharing with you an amazing, of course, image of the Ethiopian. They are believed, of course, to be the only, of course, race in the world that is in Africa to be able to tame lions. And like I was telling you, this image, of course, the time as to which this image was taken is not, of course, clarified, because we have, of course, different, of course, different bloggers coming up with their own dates. But I can take a look at the image, and of course it seems back then in the days, maybe in the 18th, of course, century, or the 19th century. And this is just to remind you of how unique we as Africans can be. And regarding this photo, there was a time I got, of course, to see an image of a white man. Of course, he had, of course, they had gone to a game park, and of course, they were out there, taking images of the lions and so on. And then the next minute, the lions are just there, chilling and waiting for their prey. And of course, because they love to be jack of all trades, but a master to none, let me just say that. Of course, he left the car, and the next minute we get to realize he was mauled by the lions, and that was the last, of course, time he was in. Of course, he ended up to be the meal. But just to tell you of how important our people are, because this is back in the days, and you don't need some certain type of borrowed knowledge for you to be able to tame a wild animal. This is our own people in Ethiopia, and of course, let me just read it. This photo was taken in Ethiopia, which is called the land of lions. This is one of the reasons we are feared. There's no other race who can, make a domesticated animal such as the lion be this disciplined. Yeah. I can concur with that, because this was back in the days, and our people were able, of course, to domesticate, of course, some wild animals. Also, let me get to share with you this other one. Also, of course, this is a lion, and you can see that of course, the dominating people there, it is the Africans. Of course, it could be they are on a safari or something like that. And that is just to say on how our people get, to interact. That is some type of, intelligence. That is some type of skill that is required. And also to the last image before we get to the main topic of the day, that is also of a black man with a lion. Wow. I'm not saying that you should, get to try out this, but it requires some skills. But there's just something about Africans. There's just something that in us, that we get, of course, to tame these wild animals. Just the same thing here on Black Hot Fire Network. We've talked about, the Eve gene in the female species. In that that is in the female species, and to be precise, it is the African female species is the only species that contains the mitochondrial gene species. So that is also one thing, and we also got to learn that the gene species in the African woman gets to give you, the ability to bring about the existence of course, many species as possible. That is just on the Did You Know here on, of course, Black Hot Fire Network. Remember, the show today is about history, and I'm talking about history. And my name is Calmie, and definitely you are listening to Black Hot Fire Network, media for the 21st century. And let me take a look at the live chat. I see at Angela Morris has already joined us here. Habari Angela Morris, and nashukuru sana kwa kutunga. That is just to say hi at Angela Morris, and I really appreciate that, of course, you have taken the time to join us here on the Black Hot Fire Network, media for the 21st century. And she's gone ahead to say, welcome back, Calmie. So good to see you. Of course, I'm super thrilled to join you guys back on Black Hot Fire Network, because this is the only station you get to get the juicy part of, the juicy part, and also the realest things that have been happening in the Black continent. And at Angela Morris, much salute, and thank you so much for joining us here. And as we progress with the show, I do believe that everyone is doing okay, that you're definitely, of course, taking the precautions. That should be part and parcel of the show. We really need to ensure that everyone is taking, of course, precautions when it comes to, their health, when it comes to, of course, avoiding this coronavirus pandemic. And as much as yesterday we talked about, different African countries trying to reopen the economy, and there was this, of course, question by the World Health Organization. But I wouldn't just say it's theirs, because we also, as civilians, we are concerned of the safetyness, and that is part of what we talked yesterday. And Angela Morris, perhaps if you're still on, perhaps you can tell us what is your take on that. In that a majority of African countries, they do want to reopen the economy, and to some people they're saying that African continents. Let me just get this straight, in that the African continent, of course, this is going to be a silent, of course, a silent epidemic, in that majority of African leaders, they want to, reopen the borders. They want to reopen. They just want everything to come back to normal. And in Kenya, the 6th of June is the day in Kenya that everyone will be, I don't know, everyone will bring out their best, in quotes, their best in quotes, because people have been, locked in homes. People have had their own resolutions during this lockdown. People have known whom to rely on, because trust me, I've interacted with people and I'm like, wow. So you need me this time when I'm okay, but this time when during lockdown, and maybe I need your time, maybe I need someone to talk to, and you're not there. So this is also the time for you to get to know who is there for you in the society. This is the time to cut off people who don't make sense to you. And I do believe that some of you have learned that lesson. But anyway, away from that, let me go on with this quote, and let me take you back a little bit in time. And this is, of course, about an amazing man whom we've been, of course, talking about from time to time. And the quote goes like this: white societies now wages a war against us that most Black people can see. If you ask even a toddler on the streets, and that is a toddler who is able, to see this is right and this is wrong. This is the quote: white societies now, of course, wages a war against us that most Black people can see. And the statement of this quote is absolutely correct. Most, of course, wars have been, of course, waged on us Blacks, and we don't see. We just see the other side. We just see that people are there, that they are there, of course, to bring aid to us, that they are there, for the betterment of the future of the Black child, or it can be in terms of education, it can be in terms of course, the society. But all this definitely comes, of course, in it, not comes, actually, it ends in tears. Anyway, let me just continue on that. In this war, they constantly spread false, black, racially demoralizing propaganda through the media. I believe a majority of you have interacted with that because, trust me, here in the country, I've also seen that. And I'm like, the type of way that our leaders at some time, they get to defend something, but deep inside as a person, because you've read, because you've been educated on certain things. And one thing that is affecting our people, that is the black community, is that we just get to check what the media tells us. We don't take our time to research on what is required. And in this world, let me continue. In this world, they constantly spread false, black, racially demoralizing propaganda through the media, which is absolutely correct. This tactic is designed to divide us and make us, of course, self-hating. That is something also that we've been battling with for quite some time, in order to make us easier to control. How true is that? Right now, if you ask me, some of our resources, they are controlled by, of course, European countries in Africa. We've had even, there was a time in Zambia when, even the Chinese wanted to open up a police station in Zambia. And that will tell you, why would a foreigner come in my country with their own laws and open up a police station? They don't know my rules. They don't know how hard I hustle to put food on the table. But these people are out there because they want to conquer us, because we are indebted to them. The craziness. But I just did get, of course, to see this quote quite, of course, familiar. And back to the, of course, the story of the day. I'm talking about the Dahomey females in, of course, Benin. Let me just, of course, share that with the family. And of course, remember to give in your views and feedback regarding the topic that we do have for you today. And remember, it is about the Dahomey women in Benin. Not that I'm against men or anything, but this is something that, did get to strike me. I'm like, wow, for once, the Dahomey, the women in the society make a chance. And remember yesterday we talked about, that is on the Express show whereby we hosted me and of course Spikes. We talked about of course getting to embrace one another and so on. And in that show, let me just go to the point of the Dahomey women. This is a group of warriors that entails, of course, women who are warriors. And yesterday we talked about issues, that is not issues, actually. We talked about trending videos that are, of course, that is the second part of, what was the name of that movie? The second part of The Wakanda is going to be released. And in the Wakanda movie, I couldn't help but notice that their warriors, actually, there was this team of warriors. Let me get to that name for you, which of course acted as females, and the name goes by the Dora Milaje in the Wakanda. Perhaps you've seen women out there as soldiers, and this is something that has been derived way back in time. And let me just share with you the Dahomey women, of course, in Benin. All right, I believe you can see from the screen. This was just an entire army that consisted of women. And let me take you in time. This is, of course, Legend of Benin, fearless female warriors. All right, Muammar Gaddafi decided, of course, tried something like this, having a female, of course, military, military soldiers as females, just to be his bodyguard and so on. And in that, they consisted of virgins. That was Muammar Gaddafi. But sadly enough, almost the entire population of Africa was, of course, misled on what Muammar Gaddafi had for the people. And just to take you through Benin before I talk about the Dahomey women, and as we get to progress, I'll also talk about other, of course, types of news that we do have for you. The Dahomey women, of course, that is in Benin. That is the current Benin. In the year 1958, the French Dahomey became the self-governing colony that is called the Republic of Dahomey in 1958. But also, just to take you back in time, in 1960, Benin gained its independence. which is great because it is amongst first of that is the African countries to gain independence. And we talked about Ghana, if I'm not wrong. Ghana was the first. Sorry about that. African nation to gain independence. All right, and I'm just talking about in the year 1975, they renamed the Republic of Dahomey into, of course, the Republic of Benin. That is taking you through time. This is what consisted of the army. And taking you also back in time, men back in time, they also did get to appreciate the African woman, because I don't get points whereby, because in this society in Benin, of course, they did have men, but according to, of course, the rules regarding you to be, of course, a Benin, that is, they were called, this one, let me just get the word for you correctly. They were called the minos in the society, minos, which means our mother. Wow. These women, they sacrificed being married, they sacrificed having children, but in general, of course, they were the wives of the king. But one thing about this, the Dahomey women in, of course, in Benin, remember today it is all about culture, it's all about history, and that's what we bring to you here on Black Hot Fire Network. The Dahomey women, this is what the women were going through, leave alone the modern women. You know, right now the modern women, the modern woman, if you tell her, to do some types of things, she'll be like, no, this is hectic for me as a woman. This is supposed to be a role that is done for the man. Listen to this. The Dahomey women, they were, of course, put in some certain type of conditions, in that for you to become a warrior, there are certain things. Some of them, they became warriors, of course, that is voluntarily, but also if you are a woman in the society and your man or your family reported you to the king that your behaviors were wanting, then punishment was that you serve as, of course, as a soldier in the Dahomey, of course, female warriors group. And these women, as you can see them in the picture, they were able, of course, to fight, warriors. They were given all type of course, testing skills that a soldier can be given. They were even able, back then in the days, you were sort of course, the things that were, able to, that is protective measures in homesteads were times they were, of course, acacia trees and so on. So the Dahomey women were made to pass through acacia-thorn trees. I don't know how many of you have familiarized yourself with acacia-thorn trees, but let me get that, of course, for you. That is acacia thorn trees, such that you can see what our fellow women were doing back then in the society, just to be, of course, soldiers, and just to be able, of course, to serve the society. They were, of course, put to pass through. These are the types of thorns that I'm talking about. Considering this is back in the day, so truth be told, these women were really sacrificing their lives for the sake of ensuring that peace needs to be within the society. And that's why at times in the society we do have days like Mother's Day, but it is definitely natural for you to appreciate your mother in whichever way she is. This is part of what I'm talking about. The acacia tree, they are most of the time they are favorable. That is the favorable conditions that make them, of course, to thrive. It is, of course, dry weather conditions, and you can't help but see them at some point. You can see them in Naivasha. At some point, you can see them in all these dry areas. So this is what, of course, the mino women were allowed to. That is part of the practice. That is just to make them known as soldiers. This is part of what they had to go through. Let me just come back to the live chat, and hope to see that I'll get to share with you a video with some of this, of course, domino, that is the mino ladies in the society. Remember, it is about history, and we do have a lot of history, of course, news for you here on Black Hot Fire Network, media for the 21st century. And this is the Calmie African Diary Show. Remember, you can join me, you can give your views and feedback regarding the same. Let me just get you a little bit of that video as you progress with the show. Right. Let me get this for you. That is the Dahomey female warriors in the land of Benin, and talk about someone not appreciating that that females can get, of course, to act. I mean, that females can get to defend themselves. Let me just share with you this. That is the legends of Dahomey. All right, here we go. Sorry, let me just get to the point.
Women today across the diaspora, our mothers, our daughters, our wives, and our sisters. The Dahomey Amazon became such an empowering symbol for ownership of their agency and the cultivation of power. In stark contrast to the truth spoken by Malcolm X, the Amazons of Dahomey have expressed no desire to either beg for respect or ask for protection. They take it. What about the world? It's home to America. And I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. Remember, if you want full access to courses, sources, exclusive allies, intimate communities, the Hausa, and the Yoruba, all rallied to they've been ready for all female fighting until we proclaim that the African Amazon really was a truth and incredible courage and audacity. The French even went as far to say that their fierceness was but determined. They only stems from the farm people of modern day Benin. The Quebeco were the original Canadian Amazon. Sources tell us that maybe women in history, it was King of England who perhaps Bishop first
Sorry about that. I think the voice is a little bit low, but that is the quality of the video that you do have for you. But just take a look at, of course, the images that are, of course, portrayed on the screen. As I'll get to, of course, talk more on that. But this is the women warrior, that is the Dahomey in Benin, that is the West Kingdom.
human classification. They were called literally
They were called the mino, mino just to mean our mothers, because these were women who sacrificed. Back then in the traditional African, of course, society, as a woman, you were allowed. There are just virtual things that would make you as a woman. In that, you are able, of course, to give back to your family, to raise a family, to be able to take care of your family. But to the Dahomey women in West Africa, that is Benin, these women neglected all these roles just to ensure that the society was at peace, just to ensure that, of course, the enemies didn't come nearby of course, the peace of the society.
automatic or much surprise to see such numbers of Canadian soldiers as they supposed to be marching against them. The conquering of Vida was probably one of the first major military campaigns for the Mino. Now, this is where their legend begins to build momentum. In 1764 occurred the one and only military clash between the Mino and the Ashanti. The Ashanti were one of the most militarily powerful groups of Africans in West Africa, and the Amazons took them on head on. No one knows exactly why the skirmish actually began, but we do know that the Oyo Yoruba troops and the Amazons won. or at least proclaim victory. The Ashanti themselves even have an oral tradition about fighting female soldiers, which has been linked to this mysteriously epic battle. But believe it or not, we haven't even gotten to the legendary battles yet. Upon first sight of the Dahomey Amazons, one early European visitor, in classic disingenuous fashion, suggested that the average Dahomey woman were of abnormal size, nearly 6 feet tall, and of proportional breadth. This was an exaggeration in an attempt to rob the Amazonians of their femininity, no different from how popular culture at times denigrates Serena Williams and her curvaceous feminine qualities. But we can't really blame them, as the mere presence of the Amazons certainly produced a strong reaction. Wall reliefs on the Dahomey Palace depict the countless battles of the Thebes. Most of these battles were against the Yoruba people. Dahomey, for some time, was tributary to the Yoruba Empire of Oyo, and after finally freeing themselves from under the yoke of Oyo, the Amazons were instructed to inflict incessant war amongst the Yoruba. And it's in this context that most of the legendary battles of the Amazons were against the Yoruba and their subgroups. After the Oyo Empire fell, the Amazons took aim for her name is remembered even unto this day. Tata Ajache. The conquering of Save and Ketu was not only dark and devastating for the Yoruba, but also for the African diaspora. You see, the taking of Ketu in particular was quite literally the infamous Amazonian victory heard throughout the Afro-descended world. One of the reasons why so many Yoruba and their subgroups were taken to Brazil enslaved was because of their battles with the Amazons. After Ketu was taken, many were sold into slavery. The price, fully aware that they weren't going to breach the wall, to show her utter scorn and contempt for the Yoruba, stopped not far from the ramparts, sat down on a copper cauldron, and disdainfully turning her back to the enemy, tranquilly began smoking a long pipe, with bullets flying around her.
And that is just a part of the Dahomey. Of course, you can see that these were amazing ladies, of course, in the society, because these were the ladies who risked a lot just to ensure that the community was safe. And I do believe that you have learned a thing or two regarding that. And I see at Fly Sea Soldier has joined me here. Thank you so much for that. And they have said Shalawam Queen at Calmie. Wow. All right. I didn't get that, but Shalawam, what does the Shalawam mean? Perhaps you can emphasize that. But much peace and love to Fly Sea Soldier. And thank you so much for joining us. So today it's all about embracing what our women did. And remember yesterday on, of course, the Calmie Kandari show, we did talk about on how the African women were able, of course, to plait braids on their heads, just as a way of that is braids were plaited in a way to ensure that they were able, to make a map of as to how they could escape, of course, from these European, of course, plantations. At Fly Sea Soldier, you said a piece. All right. Thank you for that, at Fly Sea Soldier. I did get that. I believe it sounds more Muslim, but thank you for that. It's good to get to interact with different people. Thank you so much for that. And I feel, of course, so much welcome to give your sentiments regarding the issue that you do have for you before you do get to go to the next, of course, topic. And I was talking about, of course, the Dahomey women in that is in West Africa, that is in Benin. And I've briefly taken you on how Benin had changed its name. That is part of what our women had to do in the society, just to ensure that, of course, the safetyness of the society is kept. And also talking about our women, there was a time here in Kenya where when we had the Mau Mau fighters, of course, going up there to fight for the freedom of the people. And the women also played a role in ensuring that they gave up food. They stored ammunition for the, of course, the Mau Mau. So just in ensuring that for once we as Africans did have our peace. So there is a major role that also the women did get to play. Away from that, remember it is about history. I'd like to take you all the way, of course, all the way to, of course, Rwanda. Remember the last month, that is in April. April, yeah. April is always a dark month in Rwanda, and I couldn't help but notice that is the last time that at Kit Newsome, of course, at Kit Newsome, we really do appreciate you, for what you do. That is ensuring that you get to be interactive with the people, with our own fellow African people. And there's just something. When I started the show, I talked about what the books get to give us versus what we get to see on the ground. And when you get to interact with the Rwandese people, or when you get to interact with any, of course, a race of African people, that is when you get to really know that the authors, and like I told you when I started the show, that a majority of these authors, they are not African, they are of European origin. So what is published in books, it definitely will have been, of course, some information will have been done away with. And to take you back, that is in Rwanda. In Rwanda, they were celebrating. Let me use the word celebrating, but the terminology here is supposed to be mourning. Of course, that is in April. That is the month of April. It is the month whereby they get, of course, to remember, the month of remembering. That is the month of. I've forgotten that Rwandese word, considering that. Considering that the Rwandese, they have a long terminologies, considering that the Rwandese have a long, of course, terminology, but this is the land that this is the time that they get to remember their fellow people who are, of course, are killed. This is the time they also, of course, get, of course, to appreciate, that is, the lives of those that were killed. Let me just get this, of course, straight for you as we get to continue with the show. I'm trying, of course, to get the name for you. This is the time they get, of course, to remember that is their beloved ones, their families, and this happens to be that in the month of April, just 100 days. The media says that the numbers are that is 800,000 and so on. But of course, the figures are more than that, because every month that the Rwandese get to, of course, that is commemorate the deaths of their beloved ones, they're just, of course, ghost graves that are that get, of course, to be exhumed. And of course, the terminology that I was looking for you, that is in Rwanda, that is commemorating the death of their beloved ones, it's called Kwimbuka. And yes, that is Kwimbuka is the terminology. When we went, of course, when Kit at Kit Newsome, of course, much salute to you. When Kit Newsome sent us to, of course, the Rwandan, of course, Genocide Memorial Center, we couldn't help but, of course, take a look at some of the disturbing images. This is part of, some of the things that they get to take you through, so that you can see how the Rwandans got to really, of course, to suffer during the genocide time. And remember, guys, the month of April is the month when it is a rainy season. So remember, you are running away from your enemies. You're running away, you're trying to protect your family. For the young mothers who are then, of course, given birth, or for some, of course, who are young children, it was hectic. We all know how it is hectic, of course, to remember. I mean, it is hectic, of course, to make a young one, of course, to listen to some rules. So it is called the Kwimbuka. In Kwimbuka, I don't know how the Rwandans pronounce it, but Kwimbuka is just one. I can relate it to a Swahili. Kwimbuka is like a kumbuka. Kumbuka in Swahili. I hope your teacher, that is at Mwalimu Spice, let me call him at Mwalimu Spice, has taught you what kumbuka means. Kumbuka in Swahili means to remember. So in Rwanda, in Rwandese, they call it Kwibuka. Let me just hope I've said like them. That is, of course, Kwibuka. And that is the month that majority of these, of course, Rwandese lost their lives, and it was a war against, of course, the Tutsis that was arranged by the Hutus. And the reason as to why I have brought you this is that, they say whatever is done in the dark will always come out in the limelight. And I'm talking about one man. Of course, he's not an amazing man, because this man had, of course, killed his own people. And funny how in whenever it is in Africa, this is the time that that is during election festivals in Africa. This is the time that I get to remember. For example, This is the time that I get to remember that my neighbor is Kisi, my neighbor is Luo, my neighbor is Kikuyu. Funny how our mind is always messed up with by our own politicians. So I'm taking you one on one in Rwanda. That is last month. Um, Seems like every time they get to recall the deaths of these their people, something has to come up. Either they get to find some of the mass graves that they were buried in. For example, last year they got to get, of course, some of the mass graves that their people are buried with. A lot of skulls were, of course, removed, and this happened to be nearby, of course, a reserve, a water reserve that was used for irrigation by the people for years and years. But they didn't know that beneath that laid of course, their beloveds. And this year, during the Rwandan, of course, Kwibuka, that is the year of remembering the dead, they did get to arrest one man by the name Felician. Let me share with you his image here. Of course, Felician, he's a Rwandese. Let me get his name. And Felician Kabuga, exactly, Felician Kabuga is his name. And I'm just wondering at the rate at which our people, that is our government, will go at ensuring that they stay silent whenever an offense has been, of course, done. Because, all right, so all right, let me share with you this. This is the news that has, of course, streamed in that Felician, of course, has been arrested. That is Mr. Kabuga. This guy that I'm about to share with you on the screen, this old man. Right now, he is 84 years old, and for 26 years, Felician Kabuga had been evading capture. And you want to know why? This man had influence. This, and perhaps you're wondering who is Felician Kabuga. This is the man whose daughters they were married to the late, of course, a president of Rwanda, that is Juvenal Habyarimana. Juvenal Habyarimana was the president as to whom, before the genocide started, that is in 1984, his plane, of course, was brought down, and of course, he ended up dying. And this is the man as to whom his daughters got to marry the sons of Felician Kabuga. And let me just elaborate more on who Felician Kabuga was. In that this man lived in different African countries, and also lived in different European countries. For example, there was a time he went to Switzerland, but of course they denied him, of course, staying there, and he had to relocate back in Africa. We are crying about justice, and this should really tell you more about our people. It is alleged that Felician Kabuga, at some point, he stayed in Kenya. At some point, he attended political rallies. This man on the screen is a billionaire. And just to say that he managed staying alive because he was tipped by top people in the government. That should also tell you a lot about African government. And I'm wondering, why would you not bring out justice to all these souls that were murdered? I hope that the family has taken a look at some of these disturbing, of course, genocide, of course, videos that have been put out there on YouTube, and you can tell that our people really suffered, because it is our people, because they are Africans. And I can say that Felician Kabuga, he participated in this fraud. Sorry about that. Considering that he was a billionaire, he was, of course, considered the richest man in Rwanda before the 1994 genocide. So definitely, if I am rich in the society, then I do have some type of influence to the people. And this man ensured that he gave weapons, he gave churches, and so on, because he was, of course, engaging in the tea industry. He was engaging, of course, in various other businesses in Rwanda. So he had vast influence over the people, and he managed to stay, that is to, of course, evade being arrested by different authorities, because he was tipped by the senior most people in the country. Rwanda, from time to time, has cried foul play by other African countries. We've had Rwanda crying foul play to Museveni because it is believed that certain, of course, militants, they are, of course, taking refuge in, of course, in Rwanda and in Uganda, and the Ugandan government is rather protecting them. And also, just to add on that, it is believed that Felician and his wife stayed in Kenya for some time. That is Kenya, our country, whereby we are bringing you live, of course, news regarding training issues in Africa, that is in Nairobi. And away from that, this man is still a billionaire. He was a billionaire before the Rwandan genocide, and he is still a billionaire now, of course, until his arrest, whereby I didn't get, of course, the right name as to where he was arrested, but I think he was arrested in Paris because his neighbors have been seeing him, an old man, of course, walking down the street, taking that evening walk, and some people can be so ill. You've been a major contributing factor to the deaths of millions of your people. Just because the French came to Rwanda and lied to them that for you to be a Hutu or a Tutsi, you have to have a certain type of nose. And I can't imagine the number of course, Hutus who are also believed to be Tutsis who went through that. Not that I'm justifying that it was right for the Tutsis to be killed, but it was definitely not right. And Felician Kabuga, finally, 26 years, he is going down the drain. I love it. You can never, of course, evade. Of course, you can never evade justice, and justice has definitely to be brought, of course, to the books. And I do hope that he be given, some vast, of course, terms in that is some vast harsh terms in prison, because that is basically what he gets to deserve. So for Lishan Kabuga, that is the end of his time. This is time for him, of course, to face justice. This is time for him, for the ghost, of course, death that he had performed while he was in power, they come to relate. We are, of course, almost winding up the show. Remember, this has been all about history, but let me just share with you a brief video of what is going down in history. And I really love it that every time the Rwandese get to do the Kwimbuka, or rather the Kumbuka in Swahili, or rather the remembrance of the dead, they get to get more information as to what really went down in 1994. Remember not to be, of course, let me just tell this to the family. Remember not to be a tool to be used by the white, of course, influence among us Africans. Remember to be the tool that stands out for itself. Remember to be that person that, of course, do what is right, of course, for your people, and not to be misused as the way our leaders, of course, have been misused. Let me get, of course, to share this slight video with you as we are almost coming to the end of the show. Of course, this was the man, Felician Kabugas. Of course, they get to fight for extra. Of course, that is. Let me get this right. They get to fight for extradition, but then again, justice has to be justice. This is a man that is of course, gave out weapons, that gave out used his influence to ensure that many Tutsis were killed. And of course, there was a time he evaded, of course, the police arrest. That is in Kenya. There was a time he evaded, of course, police arrest in Kenya, whereby he was tipped by a senior, most, of course, person in the police, of course, fraternity. Let me get this video for you. And it is definitely time that justice has to serve for the people. Let me get the video to you as we are almost, of course, coming to the end of the show. Remember, it is about history, and we've talked about the Dahomey women that is in the west side of Africa, that is in Benin, and hereby we are updating you on Felician Kabuga. Sorry about that. He was, of course, arrested in Paris. Let me get you the video that I'm trying, of course, to get it to you. And, the deaths, because these people were murdered in the most, some of them were thrown, of course, in pit latrines, and we all know how smelly that is. young kids who are innocent. Some of them were hit, that is, their heads were hit on the trees. Some of these people got to be removed the tendons from the legs, and whenever you are removed the tendon from the leg, then it makes you immobile. So just there at the mercy of whomever is attacking you. So you can imagine how these people died. Let me just get you that, of course, video as we come up to the end of the show. All right, don't seem to get the video over this, of course, the Rwandese fugitive, but all right, I got it for you. And Felician Kabuga had really participated in major killings. There was a time when he was in Kenya, and I believe it was his cousin, who was working hand on hand with the DCI to arrest him. And funny how our police, you know, get to be tipped by a few amounts of money, and that is it, the change of story. And it was alleged that he died from, of course, that is inhaling carbon, of course, monoxide. That is, of course, a fake story, because it is alleged that someone saw that is a bullet wound in his head. So that is how the society runs. So remember, we talked from time to time of on how our police gets, of course, to misuse, of course, their power. And this is the man who has been attending political rallies. I'm still, of course, trying to get the video for the Black Fire family. All right, here we go. That is that Felician Kabuga. People think that they can evade justice, but justice for those who lost their lives, it is not that easy. Seems like there's no video for that, but I'm still trying to get the materials that I could like to share with the family. All right. Let me just share who Kabuga is. And I'm just wondering, this is our own people who say that they fight for justice, they fight, of course, for everything and so on. But turns out they never get to fight for that. These are the same people who will, of course, hide individuals who are perpetrating in genocide, individuals who are perpetrating in war. Let me briefly share with you this as we come to the end of the show. All right, here we go. Felician Kabuga, all the way from the Democratic Republic of Rwanda.
Hello.
I hope you can hear the audio.
As Kabuga and alleged to have been photographed in Forces Memorial Hospital by an ex-Kenya Defense Forces employee is Daniel Mudenge. Mudenge says the pictures were taken in March this year.
They were taken without my knowledge, and I don't know for what reason they were taken.
Mudenge says he never saw the breaking news on Kabuga's presence in Kenya. But then, what was his reaction when he learned the pictures shown could have been his?
We admired the photo of me and my wife, and when the news were given and we saw my pictures there, actually she crashed. Also, because I could not imagine, she could not imagine being a wife. I've never been to Rwanda, not knowing the Rwanda language. The father.
Felician Kabuga has been 1994. Police say they officially invited three detectives from the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in 2007 to hunt for Kabuga after the tribunal claimed Kabuga was hiding in Kenya. FBI formally joined the hunt in 2009 to effect the international warrant of arrest. Police say the detectives have been given unfettered access to every part of this country in their efforts to capture Kabuga. Considering all these efforts and the
Let me just briefly explain on that. Of course, it was alleged that Kabuga, in quotes, was arrested in Kenya. And I don't know, perhaps how many of you have familiarized yourself with this amazing, of course. He used to be, of course, a journalist, that is a journalist who gets to know, to an investigative journalist, and they goes by the name, of course, Ali, of course, Ali Mohammed. Let me get you the picture. And of course, there was a time that he got, of course, to be. He was, of course, misled that the man that I have shared with you the video was Kabuga, and this was just a way of ensuring that Kabuga doesn't get, of course, to be arrested. But then again, this is the time that he gets to. That is Mohammed Ali. Let me get you the images of the journalist who got, of course, to investigate him, and that is an investigative journalist. He goes by the name Mohammed Ali. And at some point, it reached, of course, that he had to run for safety. That is this, of course, news. That is, he used to do an episode that was called Jichopebu, whereby he used to, of course, to put to limelight individuals who had, of course, committed crimes in the society. But then again, he was misled. That is part of what was trending. All right, let me just wind up the show, because this is the man that I want to share with you. And of course, he got, of course, to go into hiding because his life was on a threat. That is at Muhammad Ali. But then again, good news is that to the Rwandese people who had lost their lives, is that at Kabuga is finally in custody. This was the man, this was the investigative journalist who was, of course, misled into thinking that that was at Kabuga. And that is just one way of making Kabuga to run away and hide, of course. But this was the man, and he had to go into hiding with his family. But right now, he is member of parliament in the country. Anyway, that is just what we did have for you today here on Blackout Fire Network, a media for the 21st century. And do remember, my name is Calmie, and this has been the Calmie African Diary Show, whereby we have been talking about history. But away from that, I'd like you to join us on the next shows that you do have the Express Show here on Blackout Fire Network. And remember to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the Blackout Fire Network media for the 21st century. And only in Blackout Fire Network is whereby we do get to listen, engage, and transform the society. And also, you can take a look at the Blackout Fire Network website. Thereby, you can get various news for you, various information for you regarding Africa. You can also get to donate to support the network. I have been your host, Calmie, and this has been the Calmie African Diary Show. And I really get to appreciate that you have taken your time to interact with me at Flycy Soldier, Much Peace and Love, and also at Angela Morris. I really get to appreciate you for joining me here. Until then, tuonane baadaye na kwaheri, much peace and love. I have been your host, Calmie, and this has been all about history in Africa.